what I'm going to show you today is I'm going to show you inspecting a new clutch versus an old clutch. So we have clutch discs here off of a Jeep JK. This is our brand new one, right out of the box with the new clutch disc and pressure plate. The clutch disc, as you can see, has the grooves in it. There's the clutch liner that's made of multi-ferrous material. We have plenty of gap between the rivets, and you can see that it's got a fair amount of meat left on it because it's brand new and out of the box. Pressure plate again too has a nice surface on it, and even though it is a new clutch, you will get some heat treating on the end of the fingers. That's why they're a slightly different color. They heat treat those since those are under a lot of pressure and a lot of heat. So that's what our new clutch looks like. The clutch it's replacing doesn't look so good. So the silver up here is not that big of a deal, but it is starting to. If you go across it with a finger, you can get a little bit of a lip on it. This is where the throw-out bearing presses in and out against the pressure plate fingers. If you start to get a groove, that means you potentially will start breaking these fingers off, but that's not the issue with this clutch. This clutch has absolutely no material left in it. In fact, some of it is now impregnated onto the pressure plate. Pressure plate has a surface on it that's very similar to a warped rotor. You can't feel it, but there's actually a really large groove right there. And the bluing and discoloration is a sign that this clutch was very well abused. The actual disc itself, there's nothing left. As we can tell, we can see inside to the wave springs that aid in dampening the clutch disc when it's applied. And there's no material on either side. So it's actually gone past the rivets to where the rivets are grinding on this end against the flywheel and on this end against the pressure plate. So you can see that rivet's nice and blued and got a pretty good scrape on it. That's what all this dust is too that's coming out. That's all clutch material. The flywheel looks about as good as the pressure plate does, with lots of bluing, lots of checking. Big nice groove right here. This groove is being cut by these rivets that have ground into it. So this is a total loss for a clutch. It's going to require flywheel, pressure plate, clutch disc, throw-out bearing, and a pilot bearing. This vehicle didn't move when it came in. It got towed in. When you get the clutch down to where it's this far, you can get it into gear and pick a gear and drive it, but you won't be able to shift at all. So this is an indication of what a failed clutch looks like versus a new clutch. So you can kind of see the compare and contrast of one that's nice and fresh and new and one that's, well, not so nice and fresh and new. All right, so I showed you the brand new stock clutch and I showed you the failed clutch. Now what I'm going to show you is what a performance clutch looks like. So this is a twin disc clutch that is meant for a T56. It's going to be behind an LS powered dragster. This clutch is able to handle about 700 foot-pounds of torque. It being twin disc, what that means is we have two disc friction material. So we have one that's wedged in between the intermediate plate and the actual pressure plate, and then one more clutch disc that drops down on the other side. So the way this goes is you're going to have two clutch discs operating and disconnecting the transmission from the engine. So you have to have a special flywheel with these special machine bosses to be able to increase the space. The vehicle that this is going into would have normally had a single disc clutch. It's being upgraded for the amount of power that it's going to have to be a twin disc clutch. One of the reasons why manufacturers go with twin disc clutches, not only for the increased surface area, so because you have two clutch discs themselves, so that increases the surface area by double, but you're also able to limit the amount of actual turning force. So because you have two discs, you can actually decrease the diameter of each disc and bring the clutch more centralized. So as anything with an engine spins, the faster it spins, the more the weight wants to extend out, and the more of a harmonic you can get, a bigger power loss. So if you can actually centralize the clutch to where it's a little bit smaller in diameter, you're going to have less centrifugal force acting against the clutch, and you're going to have less power loss that way, so they become a little bit more reliable. So typically we can look at the Flywheel, you know, we're cutting the diameter by about 2 inches overall, so this will mean that the motor can rev a little bit higher. It also takes less energy to be able to turn that. So that's why when you see like high performance applications where they're 3 and 4 disc clutches, the clutch diameter will be 5 or 6 inches, but it'll be a real high stack, and it'll be, you know, centralized, so the weight is all in one area. Appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this, and I will see you in the next video.